Now there are of course a few different ways that you can cut cork with your Cricut machine. You can use the Cricut Explore and use your fine point blade, or you can use a Cricut Maker and use a rotary blade to get a bit of a cleaner cut. But this type of fridge magnet is very unique and not something that I see everywhere. It has a lovely rustic feel to it, so the kind of farmhouse messaging that we're going to go for is perfect for this one. My name is Kelly Rossouw, and let's get clacking. So the materials that you're going to need for this one is going to be your cork. Now there are many different kinds of cork that you can get. If you want to go for a slightly thinner one, those are typically a lot easier to use. I unfortunately only have the 2mm cork, so I'm going to show you how it looks with the slightly thicker cork, if that is something that you might want to go for. You can use pretty much any kind of magnet sheeting. I have the 0.6mm magnet sheet, which is very easy to cut on my Cricut as well, and it is able to hold up the weight of whatever it is that you stick on it. The thinner the magnet sheet you use, it might be a little bit lighter, so it might not work as well. Now I'm going to be using Tech Wrap adhesive vinyl, but you can also complete this project using heat transfer vinyl if you want. You will need some transfer tape, your typical weeding tools, a scraper, a purple strong grip mat, and if you're using the Cricut Maker, you can use the rotary blade as well. I find it gives a slightly cleaner cut. If you have a Joy, you may not be able to complete this project, but I would definitely suggest giving it a test, trying out cutting the cork on your Joy, as you don't have a strong grip mat for the Joy, but if you have a very new green standard grip mat, that might just work for you. The design that I have chosen comes from, as you may know, Creative Fabrica. And again, I talk about them a lot because I really love using them. So I'm going to just download this bundle of super fun designs by clicking download. If you don't have a Creative Fabrica subscription and you are interested in one, I will leave an affiliate link down in the description. It gives you 1 month free or up to 10 designs. And then you also have an option of signing up for the annual pass, which works out to $5 a month. So it's very economical, especially when you can download bundles like this and have tons of designs. And they run specials all the time. Like right now, they have a special deal to be able to add an extra year at the equivalent of $3.99 a month, which is ridiculously cheap. And you can even add more than 1 year on at a time. So if you have a little bit of extra money, you can extend your subscription as many times as you want. So check out that link below or visit kellyrossouw.com/cf. So now that it's downloaded and I've opened up the bundle, I'm going to select everything, click extract to, and save it somewhere on my computer that I will be able to access in a moment. I'm going to navigate to that folder that I've just saved them to, and as this particular file is all saved as zip files, I'm going to show you a very easy way of unzipping them all at the same time. So select them all, right click, and click extract here. And what it'll do is, like I said, is it'll unzip everything. And then you can just press delete to delete the zip folders. Now there will be lots of different file types that you can use, but I'm going to change the view of my folder to images so that I can see which ones I want to use and where they are. Once I've found the design that I'm going to use, I'm going to open Cricut Design Space, go to my canvas, and click upload in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm then going to click upload image and drag the file that I want to use into Cricut Design Space. I'm going to be using the SVG because it's the easiest to be able to use, and I'm going to just click continue. It's already got a name, so I can just click upload. It's a much quicker process. I'm going to resize it so that it's going to work for what I have. My cork sheets are only A4 size, or you may work on 8.5 by 11 inch. So we want to make sure that it'll fit onto that and maybe not overpower the fridge a little bit too much. So I'm going to just resize it. And then we're going to work with the offset. So this part will be cut out of vinyl or HTV, depending on your approach. And the outside offset part is going to be cut with cork. So I'm going to keep my design selected, and I'm going to come up to the top middle of my screen and click on offset. Now from here, I can decide on how much of an offset I actually want. For this particular design, I want to have the offset a little bit larger than what I might normally have it. Especially when working with the rotary blade on the Maker, any kind of really tight corners is going to not look all that great. The more simple the shape, the softer the shape's edges, the better it's going to cut. If you have very harsh shapes, it's going to take a long time to cut, but also it might not give you the cut that you want. So in this particular case, having a larger offset works to your advantage more than having a smaller one. So I'm going to actually toggle the offset larger a little bit and maybe go with a 0.8 offset, and I'm going to click apply. Now don't stress because the offset is black. I'm going to just change the color by clicking the black box and clicking brown so that we can get a little bit of an idea on what it's going to look like. And that's the nice part of these projects, is that there's not very much design work that needs to happen. But even so, I'm still going to save my project, just in case something happens. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can either adhere the cork onto the magnet and cut them both at the same time, or you can cut them separately and join them up together. I prefer the separate route because if something goes wrong in the cutting process, perhaps it's a little bit too thick, because with the 2mm cork and the 0.4mm or 0.6mm magnet sheet, that will be quite thick to pass through the Cricut, especially because the clearance is only 2.4mm. So I prefer to cut them separately. So I'm going to take my offset layer and I'm going to right click and duplicate. I'm going to change the color to maybe a dark gray, because the one is going to be cut with the magnet sheet and the other one is going to be cut with the cork. I don't have a backing on my cork, so it doesn't matter whether I cut it right side up or wrong side down. And like I said, I'm going to be using my Maker 3. So I'm going to change the machine selection to Maker 3. We also need to make sure to attach our design, because most of the time it brings it in with separate layers. As we can see here, there's a little line, so each little individual element is all different. So we can do this in two different ways. Because this is one design and I don't want to change anything, I can either combine and weld it so that it is all in one layer, or I can just simply attach it so that I can separate it again at some point in the future and maybe change some of the colors. Now when it came time to cutting this design, because the line of text at the bottom is a very, very thin font, although I had the right cut settings for this actual design, weeding it was a little bit challenging. Even though you get things like reverse weeding, and again, there are absolutely ways around this if you have to have that exact size font. But in this moment, and for this exact project, the size of the font didn't really matter. So I just simply ungrouped the design, selected the letters at the bottom so that I had them all selected at once, grouped them together just to work with it a little bit easier. And in most cases, the easiest way you can maintain the font and still have the mostly thin aspect of it, you just add an offset that is 0.02. So it's teeny tiny, and if you're using inches, it'll probably be around 0.007 or 9 or somewhere around there. Play around with it to see how thick you want it, but it doesn't need to be very big at all. And you just click apply. And you can see how the line immediately thickened up, and it makes it a lot easier to cut. But before we proceed, we need to hide the original layer that we cut, and we're going to select the group and click on the little eye to hide it. Because if we leave it on the canvas, it'll actually cut both lines, which we don't want. And then we're going to select the whole design and attach that together. And then we're going to save our project so that we have that saved for future. And then we can click make and look at our matte selection. The first matte is the gray one, which will be our magnet sheet. The second matte will be our vinyl. And the third will be our cork sheet. So we're going to start on matte number 1 and click continue. With our machine selected, we can select our material that we're going to cut. So I'm going to search for magnet. And I'm going to be using the 0.6mm magnet setting. And I'm going to click done. So my machine tells me to load the deep point blade into my machine. If you have a thinner magnet, then you can work with the fine point blade too. I use my strong grip mat as I need the extra grip of my materials, and my brayer definitely gets used to make sure that everything gets stuck down. I even use some painter's tape to secure my materials to make sure they don't shift while they are busy cutting. Make sure to always check your cuts before unloading any of your materials. If it hasn't cut all the way through, you can just click play again and it will recut in the same place. Once that's done and it moves on to the second layer, I'm going to be cutting the kind of dark green foil adhesive vinyl from Tech Wrap. And again, all of these links you'll be able to find down in the description, as well as a little discount for the Tech Wrap if you use the code down below. I'm going to change my material, select the actual material setting that I need to use for this one, which is premium vinyl textured metallic. I'm going to secure it onto my mat using my brayer again and remove the top clear layer on the top of the Tech Wrap vinyl. This is a Tech Wrap thing, and I'm again using painter's tape to secure it to my mat so that it doesn't move while it's busy cutting. When cutting the cork, we're going to look under the materials for the fabric section. And there are many different types of fabric that can work for this. You want to go for one that is slightly higher on the scale, so a denim as an example, as there isn't a specific setting for cork. But if you want to learn how to add in a specific material setting, check out this video here and it'll go step by step with teaching you how to add your own custom material setting. But I know that denim works, so I'm going to just click denim and I'm going to click done. And then we will cut our cork on the machine as well. Now that we have our 3 elements cut, we can weed them all out. Some may take a little bit of convincing, but it pops out very easily. We can just take the painter's tape off. And I would even suggest flipping your mat over and removing the mat from the material as opposed to the other way around. And we can just gently separate it from the sections that may not have completely cut all the way through. But we still have a lovely clean cut on this. We're going to remove our vinyl off the mat and cut it down. And to be quite honest, this is the 3rd time that I'm actually cutting this design. The first 2 times were an absolute train smash. So when it comes to weeding things that are really, really tiny, I find what the best way to do it is to stop, take a break, go make yourself a cup of tea, add a 0.02 offset. The original design, and that is how I was able to get this weeding so perfectly, because that is the difference between a good design and the correct cut setting, between that and this kind of thing happening to your project. So if you're struggling just like this, if you have the same problems, it looks beautiful, but it is an absolute nightmare to try and weed that, even with the right cut settings. Very often the trick is just to add a little bit of an offset and then you are good to go. If you've had a problem similar to this, then let me know down in the comments. It's nice to take a look and see that you're not the only one that struggles with some particular things. And when I have a problem with a project, I like to share it with you as well, because those are the kinds of things that may help you in future. Yes, getting the right project perfectly done is always great, but that doesn't always happen. Very often we have problems with projects like these, and if you know how to change them or how to fix them, that's really advantageous. So I like to keep it real and let you guys know when I have problems with a project, because not all of my projects go off without a hitch. And if you'd like to share some pictures of a project that you've maybe had a problem with, I've started a Facebook group and there's a link down in the description. Come join me, have a blast, share some pictures, ask some questions, let's get to know each other a little better. And if you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps the channel out. So now that you've got your decal, we have all 3 of the elements that we need. So we're now going to be using some transfer tape and applying our transfer tape to our decal. I like to use a scraper to make sure that it is really well stuck down on there. So now what you can do is to use a piece of silicone paper or parchment paper and flip your decal over. remove the backing, place the parchment paper over the vinyl of the decal, trying to leave a little bit of the transfer tape stickied above so that when you place it down, you can actually stick the transfer tape down a little bit. So now you want to line it up as best you can. Once you've lined it up, press down on your transfer tape on your table, as well as a little bit onto your item if you can, your blank. You're then going to lift the transfer tape up, remove the silicone paper very carefully, and place your vinyl down onto your blank. Use your scraper to set it onto your blank so that you get all the bubbles out. Go over this very carefully everywhere you can, and then peel your transfer tape back. Now I am absolutely going to use that again, so I'm going to place it back on a backing sheet and store it away. Now that we have our little design, we can layer it on top of the magnet. Now you can do this in one of two ways. You can either use double-sided tape or you can use glue. I'm going to use glue because I have Jewel Bond, which is a South African version of a very strong embellishment glue. But if you don't have this, you can use Barely Arts glue. You can use most craft glues. They should work very well. And you just want to coat your blank, trying to get as close to the edges as you can, but don't go on the edge because otherwise the glue will leak out. We're then going to take our cork and lay our cork down on top. I like to wiggle it around a little bit to get the glue to kind of smush everywhere, and then we are going to just press it down, and then it's a solid magnet that we can use on our fridge. But if you want to learn how to make print then cut bookmark magnets just like this one, check out the video on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I cannot wait to see you in another video, and remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.